Okay, I've already had technical issues with this. This course is hell on earth. Okay. Magic may be that one thing that saves your life. That one thing. And I mean that very literally. I don't mean that metaphorically. I don't mean that like it really made my life more whole. I mean, you might have nothing. You might have nothing but the skin on your back. And that last clawing, gnawing spark of hope of something to come that keeps you moving, which keeps you opening your eyes in the morning. It might be magic. Magic, as defined by Crowley, is the art and science of causing change in conformity with will. That's change which occurs on any and every level of manifestation, both material and astral, meaning imaginal, in your head, which solidifies into the material. But the trick there is understanding what will is. Because, on the one hand, we can be pithy and say, yes, it's any willed act, turning on a light bulb, jerking off. Really, though, Crowley was speaking of capital W will, your true will, which is that force, the animating impulse, which underlies and propels everything you do, whether you want it to or not. It occurs over lifetimes. Your true will is not unique to this lifetime. It is unique to you, but it's unique to your entire scope of your being as such, as a star in the body of Nuit, which you have been since time immemorial, whether you recognize it or not. And on that note, I want to make clear why I am creating this course for free and why I'm doing it now. I'm creating it for free because I initially had planned to make this specifically and exclusively for people in a student organization. And it was a way for me to give back to this organization, to the people in it, as well as to hopefully give them tools, methods, and frames of mind, frames of articulating, frames of viewing, just frames from which to better make sense of and navigate through the real reason why I'm making this course, which is that the world is ending. And you can take that to be whatever you want that to mean, whether you, up to and including that I'm crazy. Wouldn't be the first time someone thought I'm crazy. They can deal with it. We are on the precipice of a profound crisis. Well, we're on the precipice. We're in the middle of a profound crisis. It's just not. It's like that line from Gibson. It's the crisis is like the future in that sense. It's here already. It's just not spread quite as evenly. But just you wait. Nevertheless, yes, I believe that magic as a whole, which includes meditation, this is a class on elemental magic and meditation. It's not one or the other, it's both. I believe that both of these, properly understood and properly implemented, can and will help you move through this flood, this fire that is already here. And I know you feel it. We are at war. We have been at war. War simply is. It is a conflict between. This is a rough sketching outline. We can get more detailed than this, but for the purposes of this course and for this lecture introduction, I'm not going to. But on one hand, You have those who aim to expand and continue the arc of consciousness, to keep it going, basically keep life moving. And you have those who want to do the opposite, to enclose life, restrict it, to diminish consciousness and awareness, such that no life can prosper or flourish or exist. That's my view, that that's impossible, and that those who aim for the furthering of consciousness and life and so on and so forth have already won. I'm speaking from a trans-temporal perspective here. From one eye on the future always. And that future beckons me, and it calls me. Nevertheless, I must act it out. I must act out my true will, my will. Which in this instance means making this course for free for people who happen upon it and for people who need it. If I fail in this, then I fail in this, and I am willing to risk that. I'm willing to risk being made a fool and an idiot and a time waster, if only because I actually believe in this material. I believe in magic. I believe in meditation. I believe that lives can change profoundly. I believe that miracles are. Tend to the flame which yet still burns. Tend to the flame which yet still burns. Let's get on with it. In the following clip, I give a brief outline, sort of overview of the body scanning meditation, which I am most recommending people start out with for myriad different reasons, mainly because I think it's the best, at least in my experience, when it comes to stress management, when it comes to sort of the skill of switching from one thing to the next without attachment, kind of sitting and resting in chaos, basically the best way I can put it. And one thing that I failed to mention in it was the attitude or stance that you should take to bodily and mental phenomena during the meditation itself. I showed you everything but this, and this is really the key important part, because without this, it's hard, I feel, to get a real grasp of what the practice is and what it's trying to accomplish. And that is two things, right? The two things to keep in mind. Do not cling, do not run. Do not cling, do not run. We're talking about attachments, we're talking about aversions. I'm saying don't be attached, I'm saying don't be averse. This is the core of Buddhist non-attachment, non-aversion. Okay, well, really non-attachments, because aversions are attachments. Anywho, this is important because that is crucial for so much else. The idea is within, non-attachment, non-aversion, is to just be there with the phenomena, right? So if you have say you're dealing with heartbreak. Heartbreak is probably my go-to example for this, because it's one I think we can all relate to, whether it's relationship heartache, or you lost a dog, or you had to move away from your hometown, which you really miss, or any of those things, right? Heartbreak. Take it to be the most expansive meaning possible. That's what I mean by the word heartbreak. If you've ever been heartbroken, you probably know that consistently going back to it and fixating on it and like clinging to the pain of that, and let's be real, milking it for all it's worth, all the pitiable, affects we can get from it. Like, we've all been in that situation where we find ourselves listening to one too many Elliott Smith songs, right? And the point of this practice is to allow the pain to be the pain, allow the ache to be the ache, but also the joy, I don't want to forget that as well, We also don't want to cling to joy. We don't want to cling to, you know, positive affect, because then that can kind of spoil and go rotten as well. Um, Especially if we think we're always trying to chase that dragon, right? If we think every date is gonna be the same as the first date, every fuck is gonna be the same as the first fuck, that's a recipe for disaster. Um, so basically, yeah, let the pain be the pain. Let it move through you. Let the agony move through you. And you will learn what I've learned, what anyone who's actually walked this path for any length of time has learned, which is that the pain goes somewhere. The agony goes somewhere. I've moved through many different traumas, many different agonies. Don't cling. Don't run. Don't run from the pain. But also don't luxuriate in it either. It's a balance. Right? It's all about balance. Again, we come back to that. So when you're doing this meditation, to be clear, you're going up the central channel and then down the central channel. Up the central channel, down the central channel. When you're doing that, at every point, you can repeat this in your head as a mantra if it helps. Don't run, don't cling. Don't run, don't cling. Let the sensations at the base of your spine be the sensations at the base of your spine. You don't have to amplify them. There are practices for that, but you don't have to. Right? There's the Kundalini meditation where you can do this, but that's not what we're doing in this course. Let them be what they are. Go up. Feel a little horniness. Let it be there. Don't have to act on it. Go up. Hunger. Don't have to act on it. Lovey-doveyness. You don't have to act on it. Tightness in your throat. Don't have to act on it. Fuzziness up here. Don't have to act on it. Alright? Just keep going. Just keep going. Don't run, don't cling. Don't run, don't cling. Okay. So for the other videos, I'm going to actually like walk you through this. But for this one, I just want to demonstrate it basically so that, in the slides, you're going to notice that I say we're going to do 5-minute meditations together. I don't actually know if that's smart or not. I'm going to quiz some people in a Discord that I'm on to see how they feel about actually having the 5-minute walkthroughs each video. But for this first one, I'm not going to do that because I don't think it's actually necessary. And again, I really want you to kind of dip your toes into these waters by yourself. But I do want to demonstrate asana very briefly real quick. So as you can tell, my desk chair isn't really anything special. It's actually kind of zoom down. It's actually kind of bunk. But we have what we have. So, but it does have the back itself actually goes back, which is not the best for this. But the base is fine enough. So what you're going to do for the meditations, for the body scanning, is you're going to find yourself in a straight back chair or straight enough back chair, one in which you can at least get into a good neutral spine position, straight back. And you're going to get into this position and you're going to just put your hands on your knees and you're going to close your eyes. Keep your head kind of at a neutral chin level with the floor. Shouldn't be going up, shouldn't be going down. Should just be neutral. It should be comfortable to hold in an extended period of time. If you're straining in any way, shape, or form as far as this goes, reassess. Start over, basically. So yeah, hands on your knees, feet on the floor, and you're going to bring your attention to the base of your spine and your butt, like right where your butt hits the chair, basically. Right down there. The base of your spine, your spinal cord, your tailbone. And you're going to go up the central channel, up to the top of your head, and you're going to go down. There are multiple different ways to do this. You can either do it where you're going up a little bit with each breath, so starting at the base, inhale, exhale, and you move up. Inhale, exhale. Right now I'm about at my groin. I'm going to go up a little bit right around my belly button. Inhale, Exhale. Moving up a little bit, right around my diaphragm. Inhale. Exhale. Now about my heart. Inhale. Exhale. Okay. Now just again, just keep going. You can do it like that with your breath. You don't have to do it with your breath. And you'll notice that there are certain areas along that central channel that feel a little bit more tense or fraught in one way, shape, or form. Those you're going to want to keep your attention on a little bit longer. You might find yourself throughout the entire of your meditation time period, your chunk, focusing on one or two areas, and that's fine. Better that than to move on before you're really ready to move on. At least in my perspective and in my experience doing this practice. For a few things will probably start to happen and arise. I want to keep that kind of up to you to discover, because I don't want to front load your expectations and sort of cloud your thinking and everything as far as what it goes. What I will say is, as I discussed later in the video, just note it down. If you notice anything, any kind of like vibratory sensations, any like, if you feel like you've had like a knot in your stomach for like a year and that starts to dissipate from this practice, make sure to write that kind of thing down. And write down anything. Even if you don't really notice anything crazy happening, you can still write that down. It's like, oh, I did it for 5 minutes and it was like okay, but like I didn't like, that's fine too. You're looking for steady progress over time, not necessarily like a dramatic, explosive result, right? Like that may or may not happen. It will tend to if you keep at this for long enough. You'll have some pretty wild times with meditation, but by and large, it's about fostering a more steady kind of sensibility over time. Yeah. So just remember, neutral spine, hands on your knees. Your knees don't have to be together like this. Down, so you can see. Your knees can be apart like this. They don't have to be like this. Right? They can be like that. Right? And more kind of old school traditional meditation stuff, they're going to tell you to, knees together, all that stuff. I think that can be important. I think especially if you're doing a more specific traditional form of meditation. But for the purposes of this, we're really just trying to foster a steady mind, a balanced mind body. Really, I want to emphasize the body in all of this, right? And while yes, obviously that can be gained by being more strict with your asana, your posture, knees together, that kind of thing, I don't, in my experience, think that's particularly necessary for a beginner course like this where we're just trying to get our feet wet. Realistically, we're not going too far. Like the furthest we're going in this course is the pentagram rituals, which from the magician's perspective is not that far. So, but it's far enough to help you out. So yeah, just again, sorry to reiterate before I get distracted again. Straight back, head forward, neutral, not up, not down, just neutral. Back relaxed, not cartoonishly rigid, just rigid enough. One image that has helped me is imagine like a cat that's like still, but like you can tell that if they had to, they could pounce at any moment. Try to channel that energy. So yeah, relaxed but not sluggish or rigid. Close your eyes. If you have earplugs, put them in. Make sure your timer's set. Just start body scanning. Start from your base of your spine, moving up, moving down, moving up, moving down, at your own self-chosen pace. That'll get you where you want to go. Now, I alluded to this before, but I am a Thelemite. I don't belong to any organized thelemic order, the OTO nor the AA, which you don't need to be a Thelemite, by the way. Um, but it's important for me to say that up front because that will inform some of how I frame this material. Not that I think that if you can be a Christian and get a lot of this, I believe. You can be a Buddhist, you can be agnostic, you can even theoretically be atheist. Probably wouldn't like how I articulate half of this if you are, but hey, we all have our foibles and our things we struggle with. But in that, I also want to specify that I'm going to be trying to avoid theory and dogma as much as possible. So while I will use terms like true will and holy guardian angel, especially when we get to spirit, um, I want to avoid that as much as possible because I want this to be a swiftly. In, I want to get on with it. I want to get on with it. I don't want to dick around. I don't want to beat around the bush. I don't want to fuck around. I don't want to try to, holier than thou you or anything. Speak as if I'm on some kind of fucking mountaintop. That is not my aim. My aim is to get in, get out, move quickly. I think the fundamentals of all this stuff could be taught pretty quickly, and I want to give you just enough to light a fire, which you can then tend to yourself when it comes to all these elements. Give you just enough information to where you can start to look at earth, look at fire, look at all these different elements, such that your understanding them blooms and blossoms organically, rather than you reading over the same 5 paragraphs in a book and convincing yourself through logic and reason that that is the same thing as a first-hand familiarity, because it's not. It simply isn't. Reading, Rigardi's big book on the Golden Dawn with all the great papers, or reading Crowley's big book 4, the big blue brick. Just doing that is nothing compared to just actually sitting with the elements themselves for an extended period of time. And of course, I'm talking about just the elements of the planets. Not the gods and goddesses and all the different rituals involved in that. In this, I think it bears understanding early on that the so-called occult can be just as dogmatic and rigid as so-called organized religion. And in fact, if you're in an occult order, you're in an organized religion. If you're going to lodge meetings, if you're going to weekly group meetups and you're performing rituals together on a consistent basis, so on and so forth, I hate to break it to you, but that is organized religion. Yeah. So, and sometimes these occult organizations can be even more abusive and coercive than organized religion, so-called, because it is so off the beaten path and outside of the mainstream view. You only have to watch one, HBO or Netflix documentary about a cult to understand that. Cult, not a cult, of course, but still. Occult just means hidden, which I shouldn't have to explain, but hopefully you know that. The point I'm trying to make is I only want to impart as much as is absolutely necessary for you to begin the initiatory path and the great work and of some baseline familiarity with will as well as your true will. This is very much a beginner's course. This is not, going to do much more than that. Now, technically, meditation means single-pointed focus, which is, the ability to concentrate on a specific image, sensation, or thought for, again, an extended period of time. That's a definition that, broadly speaking, you'll find in most books on meditation if you go to a bookstore and you go to the meditation section. There's nothing wrong with that technical, more traditional definition, but it does not, in my experience, lend itself to being viewed from the jump as a practice of practices, or the practice of practices, rather, which is to say that meditation is a kind of skeleton key for any and all subsequent practices you may pursue, be it ritual work, be it prayer work, be it, anything and everything. It all comes back to meditation. Meditation is the core. And if you take this seriously and you pursue this for moving forward, it's going to remain that way. Especially as long as we understand that it's the intentional concentration over an extended period of time and not merely, sitting in a specific asana for 2 hours a day or something with your mala beads or whatever the fuck. It's much more primary than that. It's much more lower than that, than any one specific meditative practice. Speaking of, the other reason why I'm defining it that way is because it jailbreaks it from any specific tradition or path, right? A brief aside before we move on to the elements. There is more information in the slides down below if you want to click on those and peruse them at your own leisure. I want this video specifically because I have struggled making it so many times to just be pretty swift and to the point. So yeah. But moving on. The way meditation, intentional concentration over an extended period of time, the way that fits into the elements, first and foremost, what I want to say is that, although it's going to sound a little crazy, every single thing you've ever experienced, that you're experiencing now, that you will experience in the future, is or can be framed as being fundamentally elemental. And no, I don't mean in the material chemical sense of the, periodic table of elements, although that's true as well, of course. For the purposes of this course and for, magic in general, I would invite you to think of the elements fire, water, air, earth, and spirit as being clearly discernible affective and imagistic qualities, which constitute every aspect of your phenomenological experience. An affect is a feeling or sensation. They're emotional, they're embodied, they're sensate. It's sensation, basically, broadly understood. And imagistic. That means imaginary, what could be seen both visually, visually and like in your mind's eye, or astrally. We'll get to it later, but one of the big things I want to kind of demystify is the astral. The astral is just your imagination and the various levels of concentration of that and concretization of that. But yeah, the astral is just your imagination, which is another way of saying that you are always accessing the astral as long as you're thinking and imagining. I'm going to say that again a little slower. As long as you are thinking and imagining, making images in your head, you are accessing and interacting with the astral plane. That's your little cult nugget for the day. But to sort of to dive deeper into the idea that you're always, sort of enmeshed with the elements. You're now sitting, standing, walking, and you're watching me. You're listening to me. You're doing so primarily through visual and auditory senses, which are aspects of your body. Your body is the most condensed form or outgrowth of who you truly are, right? Without your body, without this, your most condensed form, you could not apprehend any of this. At least not in the same way that you currently are. Your body, the basic fleshy stuff you take yourself to be most of the time, is analogous to Earth. It's not the same as Earth, it's analogous to Earth. This Earth, this body, needs to be able to remain still and steady, yet movable. So, still and steady, yet movable. Firm, but not rigid. In order for you to meditate for any extended period of time. We will go through asana in the next lecture. Asana means posture, but we will go through posture in the next lecture, and I will go through more overt demonstrations then. The basic body scanning we did at the earlier Um, I didn't really go into that because I didn't think it was particularly necessary. I think that kind of thing is also um, sort of absorbed over time. And I didn't think it was appropriate. I don't think it's appropriate to go into that too detail right now in an overview introduction. Anyway, um, now when it comes to air, um, air is the analogy with meditation when it comes to elements continues with less condensed elements as well. Starting with air, which is theoretically the least condensed. Um, I guess you could maybe say fire is, but anyway, um, air is considered in two complementary lights as breath, which is literally breathing, um, and as discernment, which I would define here as the ability which deepens over time to tell this from that, up from down, black from white, heat from cold, hunger from full, um, sleepy from energetic, that kind of thing. Um, I would argue such discernment is ingrained, but it deepens over time as you grow and you mature and you learn things. But I'm not gonna go learn I someone can correct me on this, but I think that I do not think it's a cultural, merely a cultural byproduct being able to tell the difference between hot and cold, for instance. I think that all animals can tell the difference between hot and cold. So, when it comes to meditation, the ability to remain still, earth, and to breathe steadily, air, are of paramount importance. So much so that there are entire practices of meditation devoted to simply breathing. Pranayama, for instance, which is very important within Raja Yoga. Um, but we're not gonna get too deep into that. We will get into intentional measured breathing in air, but very very simple. It's very very basic. Nothing like what pranayama demands of you. Um, but in addition, the discerning quality of air, which is symbolized by the magic weapon of the dagger. If you ever, it's like a magician's dagger, it's air. Will save you in all sorts of tricky and uncomfortable meditative experiences. Um, it'll help you, disentangle yourself from thoughts and thinking, to sort of hold affects, emotions at a kind of to not identify with them. Basically, let's put it that way. To into an in the moment disidentification with the affects, which is of vital importance when it comes to meditation. Um, the breath clarifies and it invigorates, which allows you to cut through all sorts of blockages, and so too does air, elemental air. When it comes to water, we can view it as the ability, which again, all these develop over time. You're not going to get this in a day. To receive and to hold, and its magical weapon is the cup, not surprisingly. Um, as well as to let go. So it's to receive, to hold, and to let go. That's water, in the most basic sense. Um, so whatever, and in that specifically, whatever arises and occurs during the meditative practice or experience. This is crucial because, despite the wellness industry's propaganda, meditation is actually rather difficult. Another reason why I want this to be free. Because beyond the basics of finding the time and the requisite motivation to actually sit and fucking meditate, most people, during at some point in meditation, oftentimes right when you begin, um, you're going to experience bouts of fear, bouts of aggression, bouts of disgust, and without any sense of how to hold or receive or let go or move on from these things, or even that you should hold or should receive or should let go of them, right? Like if you're just like, oh, I just sit and close my eyes, oof, baby, good luck. Without any of that idea, um, you're likely to get frustrated and give up meditation entirely, and then proclaim meditation just doesn't work for me. How often have you heard someone say that? How often have you yourself maybe said that? It's understandable. Understanding, by the way, is also an aspect of water. Being able to hold and receive and let go. That's understanding. Uh, but it's untrue. Meditation is for everyone. You might not jive with a particular practice. You know, you might prefer, I don't know, a lying meditation or a walking meditation or something, you know, whatever, as opposed to one or another practice. But the ability, which deepens over time, to concentrate over an extended period of time, that's for everybody. I'm sorry. That's for everybody. So, fire is the will. Fire is the drive. Fire is lust. Fire is what sustains you. It sustains you in every act of meditation. When you feel too twitchy, when you feel too when it feels like your mind is wandering, when it feels like your body is twitching too much and you can't concentrate, you're just so distracted, and you just want to give up and quit the practice. You want to pull out your earplugs. You want to stand up. You're say, "Fuck this shit. I'm tired of it." It is fire, which brings you back into the dance, ready to continue until the very end, until the timer goes off. For instance, if you're doing a time meditation, um, fire is going to sustain your practice in every discernible way. Now we could say that actually that's spirit, but fire is the most overt, condensed expression of spirit within the four elements. So we're just gonna say fire. Fire is what keeps you interested, desiring both the practice itself as well as the fruits of this particular labor. The key word there, of course, is desire. Fire is potency, it is lust, it is yearning itself. If meditation, which is again here being defined as intentional concentration over an extended period of time, is the skeleton key, then fire is that which is unlocked. Okay, so if meditation is the key, fire is what is unlocked. Or rather, it is the promise of that which is unlocked. Spirit. Fire beckons us onward. It says, come, come, keep going, keep going, keep going. Whatever you can, keep going. It does so with it keep going. It does this with its heat, with its passion, with its promise of light and life, with a vibrancy hitherto only guessed at and experienced haphazardly, if at all. Fire is what is received by water, discerned by air, and what is held, made firm, solid, and real in earth. Without fire, there's nothing. Right? Ask anyone who's ever been super depressed for an extended period of time and it feels as if the fire has gone out within them. It's everything. Without the desire, without the lust for life, without that, everything starts to crumble. Okay? Fire's important. It's really important, guys. Like, super important. You need a fire. I'm debating on even saying anything about spirit at this time for a lot of different reasons. It's very easy to misunderstand and to, in that misunderstanding, act and speak and believe as if you know, you do understand. What I will say is that spirit is embedded in every element, which is to say that spirit is embedded in every aspect of your life. In a very real way, there is only spirit. Spirit is all that is. The eternal, the ever becoming, the already is. Um, but but that said, if you do want to read a bit more about spirit, there is a whole page in the slides dedicated to it. You're more than welcome to go there and read it. And moreover, when we actually get to this section in a few weeks, there will be a full dedicated, video on spirit, and I will be, advising some practical means by which you can kind of touch spirit, for lack of a better way of expressing it. So again, in reality, you're always touching spirit, but it's a matter of degrees and conscious recognition that that's what's happening. Because I can say you're always touching spirit, but unless you're feeling it, it doesn't mean anything for me to just say it. So, yeah. In this final section, we're going to go through what it takes to meditate on a daily basis, and I'm going to give you some homework for the next session. Now, I plan to record and edit and upload the Earth lecture the weekend of the 11th. So either the 11th or the 12th of July. Fingers crossed that I can keep that pace. Nevertheless, here's what it takes to meditate daily, okay? Dedicated time of day. Okay. That can be right when you wake up. It can be right when you get home from school. Right when you get home from work. Dedicated time of day. You get to decide that. I'm not going to hold your hand through this. Alright? I'm not going to tell you what time is the best. I'm not going to tell you, what I will say is I do not recommend doing it when you're really hungry or really full, because it's gonna test you. I also don't recommend doing it when you're really sleepy, because you're just gonna fall asleep. But there's gonna be different times for different people, depending on your tradition. The most optimal times, as far as the traditional recommendation is at dawn or at dusk when the sun is setting. One or the other. There's different reasons for that. But for all intents and purposes, and for this course, it doesn't matter. So, do you need a time of day? Then I highly recommend earplugs, a comfortable chair, or cushion, or bench if you can afford them, and a timer. Earplugs are really cheap. You should really get them for very cheap at most drugstores. And a comfortable chair just needs to have a back. Hopefully you can sit up straight. We're going to go through a sauna and posture and all that next week, but just make sure it's a straight or straight enough backed chair, and that you can sit in a straight or straight enough posture for however long you're going to be doing it for. And your cell phone should have a timer. If you don't have a cell phone, you should have a computer with a timer. If you don't have a computer with a timer, you should really get a pretty cheap stopwatch at sporting goods stores. And even if you want to keep all this stuff separate from like your cell phone world, I can understand why you would want to just go to Big Five and get a timer or something. Either way, earplugs, comfortable chair, the straight back, and a timer. You're going to want a notebook or a journal. And so in there, you're going to write down the date, the type of meditation you did, how long you performed it for, and any observations that you can sort of come away with from the meditation. Did you see a bright light? Did a lot of memories from childhood come up? Were you constantly struggling with an ache in your right shoulder? All these every little thing you can kind of bring up, try to bullet point it or write it in full sentences, whatever works for you. This is so you can track changes over time with the practice. You might have something very dramatic come up. You might have a vision, a very sort of meaningful vision, and you might want to be able to refer back to that months down the line. Number 4 is to start small and to work your way up. The general recommendation for me would be to start at 2-ish minutes and to just go from there. There's more information down below in the slides, but that's enough for now, I think. Start small, start very small, and work your way up. Homework. You're going to make a do and a don't chart. They're very simple, very not entirely complicated, and it's another one of those things, as with so much in this course, that is going to deepen over time and evolve. And it's pretty much what it sounds like. Over the next week, you're going to try to bring as much attention and awareness to behavioral patterns that seem to, as far as you can tell, throw you off balance, shake your shit up a little more than you would perhaps want to. And only you can know what these are, particularly. Some of us work at a bar, and it's normal for us to stay up until 3 a.m. We, in fact, have to. Others don't have to. And in fact, that interferes with work or school. So, are you someone who has a habit of staying up too late, given everything else in your life, right? It's not, you know, um, it's not just like, for instance, some people can handle a couple beers a night. Some of us can't, right? And you know what that means. I don't need to, hammer this home or beat a dead horse with this. You probably have. The more I'm talking, you can probably think of 2 or 3 things you should put on your don't side of this chart. Okay, so that's what the don't chart is. The do chart, it's a T chart, right? It's right next to each other. The do side are behaviors you already do, which you know and understand to elicit a greater sense of harmony and balance for you in your life, right? Reading every day, going for a walk, going to the gym, drinking enough water, that kind of thing. The do and don't chart doesn't have to be all that dramatic. If you want to put something in there that's pretty dramatic, you can and maybe should, but don't want you to get so overwhelmed with the don't side of things. Depending on your personality and if you have a history of like trauma or something, you're probably gonna have like 800 things on your don't side, most of which probably shouldn't really be there. It's probably just your inner critic. But nevertheless, if you struggle with something like suicidal ideation or intrusive thoughts or self-harm or addiction, so on and so forth, these like really big, things which are like, I shouldn't do this, I don't do this, you can put those in your don't chart. Just be mindful of the next part of this exercise, this homework, which is to progressively over the next week or so, or really moving forward with this course as well as just in your regular ass life, progressively do more do's and do less don'ts, right? You should be focusing more and more on the do's to the point where the don'ts just kind of evaporate as certain behavior patterns go. You don't really have to struggle with them. You don't have to fight them. They just kind of start to dissipate as far as their force and weight and reoccurrence in your life. At least that's been my experience with this kind of practice, is that they just sort of go away of their own accord. You don't really have to fight with them. Which is not me saying don't get therapy or don't, take your meds. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that the more you focus on positive behaviors and shit you actually want to do, as if by magic, the things which cause you trouble seem to sort of just dissipate. I don't know why that is, spirit, but it just seems to happen. So, second homework is to touch grass. There's a bit more detail in the slides below, but basically what you're going to do is you're going to find a secluded enough place. Could be your backyard, could be your side yard, could be your front yard, could be a neighborhood park, could be a hiking trail. It doesn't matter. Sky's the limit. Find a secluded enough spot where you can more or less be by yourself and undistracted by other people. And you're going to take off your shoes, take off your socks, and plant your feet and your hands on the ground and just close your eyes, and to the best of your ability. Notice it's not like you're trying to force it. Just sit there and see what happens. Simple as that. Sit there and see what happens. Don't try to force anything. If you're bored, be bored. If your stomach is rumbly, let it be rumbly, right? Just sit there with the non-human or more than human environment and let what happens and just pay attention to what happens, right? Um, Again, there's more in the slides below, but just do that for about 30 minutes twice a week or 2 times before you move on to the next lecture, and record your results each time. Or, better way of putting that, write down what you experience to the best of your ability as far as articulations go. If you say felt very weird, you can write felt very weird. If you want to write instead, I had a deepening sensation of a cloud or a amorphous sort of energy growing in my stomach as sort of start to spread throughout the rest of my body, you can write that too. Be as detailed as you can be given your current level of articulation, your ability to articulate this shit. You don't have to stress over, how minute your descriptions are. There's no need to get into that. No need. Now, homework 3 is to just begin meditating. Again, start with 2 to 5 minutes. Just do the body scan one. Easy peasy. But you should try to do this every day, at least once. Okay, this is at least 2 minutes every day. That should be doable for everybody. And if it's not, yes, it is. Now, for extra credit, on your do-don't chart, next to each behavior on the do and the don't side, write the little elemental symbol which you think best sums up or participates in that behavioral pattern. So if it's, quote unquote laziness, you put earth, right? If it's you spend too much time on hookup apps, put fire. So on and so forth, that kind of thing. You don't have to get too in the weeds on that, and you could down the line be like, that's not water, that's air, or that's not really like earth, that's more of a water thing, right? You can cross it out and put in the quote unquote correct element later on. In truth, every behavior partakes of all the elements, right? There's very few exceptions. That is true. So you don't have to get too in the weeds of this. The idea is just to sort of get more and more familiar with elemental thinking and applying the elements to phenomena which you're already familiar with. So do that. And the other bit of extra credit is to read Liber Libre from Aleister Crowley. It's a very short incantatory poem, 22 stanzas, which can be tied to the tarot. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, for further study. But basically what it does is it sort of describes the initiatory path, as well as asserts and sort of hammers home the notion that equilibrium is the basis of the work, which is to say that there's really no avoiding the balancing of the elements within your own body, mind, spirit system. So that's your other bit of extra credit this week. Look at that. We made it. The whole overview. Feel free to message me either here in the comments, or I'll provide links below to other avenues of communication. I'll try to respond to any and every inquiry, unless this happens to get like a ton of views and a ton of attention, which I highly doubt. But either way, I will do my best to respond. And yeah, keep an eye out for that next Earth video, which will be coming sometime in the next week and a half or so. In the meantime, just focus on the homework, go over the slides, and begin meditating.